I had reached a peak on this journey of cultivating the art of self-love, and I just had to find some words, something that I could put a tag to it of what was actually happening inside me, around me, and through me. And all I could say, it's a love thing. It seemed like a school assembly as I sat among 7 elders, and the main speaker had now taken the platform. I am love, and through wisdom I become your finished table surrounded here by elders, and beautifully displayed with the best foods that you can think of, including champagnes and red wines, and not to mention the overflowing of best spring waters you can find. Now, what would you say if I told you that such a feast really does exist and the main presence awaits you? Because this table has been set especially for you. What if I told you another secret? That if you were really hungry and knew that this beautiful setting was much nearer to you than breath, would you walk away or gladly partake? Had it not been for the illusionary wall that you erected, that has now made you believe you just can't step right in? I am the chandeliers in the ceiling giving you light for a new meaning as you dig in. I am the picture on the wall you make a comment just to initiate conversation, as though if you were to remain silent you could no longer remain here, since you could not sustain your brain, much less bear your pain, and by that you would certainly perish. But I beckon you unto myself, even through the side of the wall that you build, of course. Not that I could not eradicate the trace withal, but how would you be able to identify your witness, who has become your point of reference as you choose heaven or hell? Now, can you see that without me, you really would cease to exist? Without you, I too would cease to exist. I am all the ingredients put together in creating this lovely cake you see, including your watering mouth and the sounds as you utter. Yes, please. I am the touch that you feel as it crumbles to your fingertips. Look at those shades, colors, and designs, stimulating with delight all those taste buds ready to capture what's not yet in your mouth. And as you raise me up to your nose, so wonderful the aroma, you can't help but to close your eyes to the heavens. And with one bite you realize heaven is really there, without having the need to ask exactly where. But with that elation of that realization, you discover that the insight that you are really a part of me. Love is the capsule whose ingredients consist of all the elders' faith that assures us of presence, with truth, unity, and to also be with conviction and endurance, to overcome all trials through forgiveness, and to gain peace, for peace of love is what we ultimately seek, which becomes our eternal bliss. Love is the kingdom in which all the elders exist and consists of the throne of kings and queens, whilst love embraces and also rocks the crib of the newly born babe. It is love that whispers, bless you, and utters from the heart, how do you do? She is from whence all things came and all things continue to reign. Love is the intertwinement of the cords that bind, including the shapes, contours, colors of the whole human race, that says, whether black, brown, white, yellow, you are mine. Yet, with that knowing, love is never conceited, nor is she blind. And just because love is not self-seeking doesn't mean she is small. Love is a capsule that you swallow, although you may have just swallowed, but certainly does not leave you feeling hollow, because love is the umbrella that shields and also heals all living things from all all sorts of infectious diseases, this is the reason that you have been prescribed a universal dosage so divine, which anyone can exceed, and to be administered through any sensory modality, but orally taken like a kiss, it gets quickly absorbed. By that, you may not even have a need to pray. Some may endure withdrawal symptoms but guarantee no complaint about side effects. Sometimes intense with love, you will find heart-wrenching moments so hard to define, but even in the midst of it all, love beckons you, just be still, for I am the crimson light within. I am here to help if you please. Love is not boastful nor competitive, for what is there to be compared with? Love said, apart from those elders, I'm often called by many other names. Some say I am the open heart and basic kindness of giving and receiving, a gift as Christ spirited me, and others say I am ultimate goodness in every way. Love is the omnipotent and omniscient presence. But whatever name you choose, love doesn't mind or complain because she understands the language of every heart, including their game plan. But love simply says, I am that I am. Whatever you want me to be, that I am. My characteristics are universally the same because irrespective of race, gender, or cultural practices, you could all find me in yourselves. Note, wherever you are in the world, you cry and laugh and hurt the same. Hence, my ultimate goal is to bring you onto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. To love, we are all equal as one, because the blessing of gifts love never fails to bestow and is delivered to all on time. It is often said love makes you blind. Love says, I know that you may find this strange, but this happens only when one chooses to stay in the waiting game. Be very conscious, for this I say, I have come that the blind might see. The truth to be seen in all transparencies, love exposes and reveals that which must see. Justice in all principalities, to lead each one from bondage and to experience liberation. It is true that I am not a bed of roses, I am all the flowers and more. However, when you get pricked by the thorns, just remember to focus your gaze on the sweet-scented petals that leaves a lasting trail. I am the match struck to your log as you set it aflame, and there you will see that without you, my flame does not exist, and vice versa. Love is the becoming in unity and recognition of every elder that we meet, and by her presence, we are all healed. As we discover that even the shortcuts of forgiveness also guarantee success, however, love still reminds us that the virtue we often seek is actually in the journey of our quest. Love is becoming aware that to actualize self-full love through the crimson light is the realization you are indeed light. As the sweetness of the marrow holds the dose of healing in the bone, so is love unto all there is, the constant light that glows within. It is the acceptance of self and that of the other, sister or brother, group or community, country or continent, and when administered with presence, love becomes certainly felt. Love offers freedom to all who will hear and ensures the whisper in the heart, I love you, dear. It is by the illusion of her lack many write sad songs, I want you back, because they had failed to follow instructions that she calls all to obey. Do you feel entrapped? Because love will unbind you. Since love is victorious in all deeds, are you willing to partake of a sweetness that she willingly and abundantly displays? Love synchronizes and harmonizes in bringing you onto her bosom. A safe haven has been assured, including final destination resort. Open and sharing, love attracts and simply subtracts what is not divine. By that, you come to know that which really is. And even though she may seem intricate, love simplifies, enacting, arranging, mobilizing transcendental energy. Love is strong. You say to yourself, I am working with conviction to live with faith and unity and to exhibit truth. And that's why I am learning forgiveness so that I can fully experience being with presence. But I say, the next time you meet the little old lady who says to you, hello dear, you had better hold her in high esteem. Love explained, knowing who you are is important because I cannot see myself in myself. And that is why I reflect myself through you as mirrors. By that you learn through the Open University of Life how to gain your achievement of loving thyself with honors and avoid the long dreaded process like fear. At this stage, love proceeded to tell me about the guy named Fear, whom of course I had met several times, perhaps even one too many. According to love, like the other elders, Fear had completed the Self-Full Love program with distinction. However, shortly after enrolling in the course for Mastership Love program, Fear dropped out and, of course, found himself immediately broken. Thus, having been removed from the whole group, he inevitably created a curse for himself. Fear became so angry that he turned red hot and instantly panicked because he was faced with having to pursue something that he had not planned for, working with strange people at the primary level in GPS. Because he showed them so many things that they would not have otherwise known, they simply adored him. Missing the elders like he did, Fear concluded that he had shortchanged himself and consequently drowned himself in a bottle of spirit. The panic attacks increased as each thought came to mind. Now, I am no longer seen as the bright and illuminating one. A snowball effect evolved as he embarked on new ventures, which invariably resulted in frequent severe attacks. Being very charismatic, Fear arrogantly thought that he could get back on course just like that. It was not that simple. He would have to apply for sponsorship granted with love, and was also required to develop true character building, like having the ability to be patient, for example. Being impatient, as he concluded that the reason for his delayed response to his application was that it had been denied. Feeling rather stupid each time he tried making something new happen, he'd say, I fear have been a real mess of things. I have made a real mess of things. In essence, he had missed the creative minds of the other elders. For this reason, he continued reaffirming to himself over and over, I fear have been rather stupid. He became fearful even of his own self. This meant he also found himself on edge and created endless havoc. Naturally, he blamed everyone and everything for his damn foolishness. According to love, that's exactly what happens when you feel stupid. You can't think straight. Fear developed what is commonly known as schizophrenia, a multiple personality disorder. On hearing this, I was hoping that my 3 selves business that I had was not going to be categorized as such. However, Love said that the elders looked down on fear and they saw that it was just too hot for him. Therefore, they held a conference and decided to intervene as it seemed like fear was actually crying out for help. They decided to get to the bottom of the issue with Unity. An interview was arranged with Unity, hoping to determine what Fear was seeking. "Fear, where are you going?" Unity said. Fear responded, "Going to and fro." "Doing what?" Fear responded, "Seeking whom I may devour." Of course, Fear knew very well being on hit like he was meant a lot of damage had been done. People had gotten burnt because fear, filled with spirit, moves very quickly just like that and in turn ignites into red hot flames. It turned out Fear was scared. He might have not been able to prove his competence in achieving a good grade onto the Mastership Love program, especially since he felt that he was the brightest of them all. He kept repeating, "You see, Fear, have made a real mess of things. I seem to have lost my head." The repetitions of his pitiful statement caused Unity to feel sad for him. Played in her head as a jingle by which a seed had been sown that enabled her to understand fear. Later, Unity reported back to the other elders, "I saw that all a person's thoughts evolve like seeds in the ground, ready to burst. Look at it this way," Unity said. "If all a person's thoughts and actions are like seeds that become rooted and bear fruits after their kind, then clearly Fear's action to break away from us was not a healthy seed to sow in the world. The truth of the matter is, since Fear has broken off course and saw himself as a curse, the next thing followed. He was faced with the need for a cure. For this reason, I want us to encourage others to think good thoughts for healthy seeds. This way, we can create a strong bond in the world. I want you all to get what I am saying," Unity continued. "Therefore, we must remember that O represents the circle that we are all part of, whether it is perceived as good or evil, but nevertheless whole. Like the picture of a child screaming with arms stretched out wide, naturally, Fear took on the shape of the weakest link, as though it were the letter C, devastatedly seeking its counterpart that mirrors and attracts another C. As the two merge and face each other, they become whole and may even form a strong bond in the world. The trouble is, not unless one first takes an objective view as though she were the child, with the claps of the hands, palms facing each other, which takes the form of the whole. Will he or she continue to experience being the link, seeking its counterpart? Therefore, it is vital that to be whole, one ought to see himself as such. Whole. This, however, in my experience of being faced with fear, can only be gained through love. If I should go with my gut feeling, we all need to be immunized with love so that we can help others deal with fear. Otherwise, we won't be able to go back down there. And what use would we be then? Said Unity. Love added, "Sad to think one actually allows himself to be so petrified of his ability to do good that he opts out of the game, hoping to avoid shame. Now, that's so insane." When I heard this, I thought, but that's exactly what had happened to me. I felt that I would not be good enough. In 1973, The annual secondary school magazine published one of my stories. With little concern as to whether my story would be published, I just submitted it at the time and forgot about it. So I was amazed when I had been recognized for my achievements by my peers. Nevertheless, my joy quickly subsided by what seemed like everyone pursuing me, asking me about the next story for the following year. And what was I going to do for the first? And was I going to be good enough? And on hearing that, I panicked. I felt an obligation to escape the ransom that I had to hit the same mark or do better. I was not willing to risk disappointing all those people with such high expectations of me. According to love, unity along with conviction was with fear for a second time. Their compassion intensified Fear's desire to reunite with the other elders. Thereafter, Fear became an expert at breaking all kinds of bolts and locks, safes and vaults. No matter what the combination, he did them all, just to get back on course. Fear not only enrolled on the mastership program, he succeeded in all the following courses: wisdom, healing, prophecy, knowledge, faith, miracles, and languages. Love said Fear devoured all the units just like that. How was he able to do that, I asked. It's called transference skills, in which he applied himself through 4 dimensions. The other elders, on the other hand, operated on only 3 dimensions: decision, discipline, and determination, with the expectation of discernment, a unit that could only be attained from the Open University of Life and serves as a bridge, or the ability to make decisions, to actualize in self-love, and to recognize one's chosen gift. As I listened, I could not help but think I must have learned something from that D factor from Fear. Since everything love had related seemed clear, Love said, Love also had to overcome his embarrassment of facing each of the elders, who turned out to be very supportive of him. One could say that his intention to return home to his friends had become the turning point of the prodigal son, who had acknowledged his foolishness to his father after squandering his inheritance. Fear had preceded feeling of his abandonment of pride, guilt, shame, and the anticipation of embracing the domain of wholeness once more. Fear had formed a legacy of one removing the sandals of her feet, so to speak, for the ground which she stands upon is holy. It was the recognition of his containment that he needed to become one with the crimson light. You could say that Fear had become the demarcation of transformation as the offer of bullocks on the altar and the restoration of peace and harmony, including freedom from strife and the clapping of hands that embrace all blissful gains. Basically, Fear is a coarse salt, biblically labeled as Lot's wife, waiting to be processed as granules or refined in order as it can be defined in whatever and wherever it is. According to Love, the most wonderful thing that happened throughout the Masterships program was that Fear developed a clear understanding of the spirit of discernment. This was the only module that could allow him to make the distinction from where he was and where he wanted to be. It was the merging of 2 worlds. Hence, it was not only necessary for the other elders, since they in turn represent the brother of the prodigal son. They stayed home on the bridge of actualizing self-love. Notwithstanding, discernment has since been a mandatory unit to the master's program. According to Love, although Fear knew how to reassimilate himself with the elders, he was nevertheless unaware that he had to face the naked truth to submit his application with resignation so that he could be with forgiveness. That was Fear's biggest challenge ever, to be with forgiveness, and for this reason he needed faith. He discovered that the longer it took him to accept truth, the worse he felt. That in turn became the seed of procrastination, the flip side of being on course. Basically, fear now served as a checkpoint for all intentions. Having listened to Love up until that point, I felt empathy for Fear because then it made sense that Christ endorsed the idea to always be with forgiveness. For this is how you not only win friends, but you can stand to influence people and situations as well. According to Love, it is important that we remember that fear can only affect us by finding something like him in us to attach himself to. Fear as a point of circumcision, the cut-off point which indicates something is no longer necessary or even a signature on a dotted line. It's a point of the inner calling of your heartstrings which requires you to trust the driving force of the crimson light, thus having faith to believe in the promise of presence and to have conviction even though tempted to wish it were not so. Love also said that we must have wisdom to follow exactly what is required to work with endurance in upholding the pangs of pain that often cause the heart to ache and the knees to shake. However, once you have consented with resignation and with the spirit of unity, which merges and bonds, you then become whole. According to Love, if you look well, you will be able to tell that fear's role in this fair is really playing the clown, directing individuals, groups, countries out of hell's game and into love. That is why you often hear him say, been there, done that, and even got a t-shirt to prove it. Now, my understanding is that a lot of trouble lies with students of the primary and secondary level. They just love identifying themselves with the t-shirt. I think it's all to do with those prints. The thing is, people just need to find a way to motivate the students by pivoting their attention away from plagiarizing, polarizing, and prioritizing the t-shirt as a product. Then they can assimilate themselves by producing a profitable profile for their divine intended profession. Now that's why I am careful of what labels and writings I wear. Love said that Fear gained his master's degree with distinction. The other elders were so fascinated by his achievements that they nominated him as head principal of the Open University of Life, which specializes in how to find love. Hence the reason, after being on the course, all Fear students graduate and eventually retire in love and claim to feel on top of the world. It is said that Fear always begins his lectures with these 10 words, "Fear no one, for I have come to reign supreme." It takes the students a while to get it, but after they have repeated the mantra so many times, they become amazed of the realization that their personal transformation on a higher plane, because by then they are no longer with fear. The sad thing that I have also come to understand is that fear has had a very hard time trying to convince people that he is indeed the flip side of the coin, working harmoniously with love for the good of all humankind. It is for this reason that love felt it was necessary to announce, I have not given you the spirit of fear, but the spirit of sound mind. If only we believe fear actually serves us well by pushing us to the edge so that we can actually fall until death do us part. The dying of that which must take place to experience love. On the other side of the coin, just as shedding limiting beliefs reminds us that we can no longer hide, for a new life awaits us through the crimson.